It gives me great pleasure to hand over to Margaret Fletcher to speak about her memories of Madge. Thanks, Margaret.
Hello to everybody. I've made the most unforgivable sin and left my notes behind. So I'll do the best I can. I know Bill Kerr was famed for saying, I've only got 4 minutes, and Clive James also wrote of an unreliable memory, and I'm afraid I might go along those lines. I thank everybody who's had input, particularly Dr. Annette Brown and Robin Willis for their belief in this award, and it's marvellous that today it's come to fruition. And other thoughts that drift in and out of my mind about my aunt, who particularly playing the piano in the studio, and she'd be playing away, tossing her head in time. She'd have a foot out, beating time as well, and in between all that she'd be going da-da-di-da-di-da-da-da, and marking the time. And that's something that I very often think about, and think, you know, how marvellous to be able to do all those things at once, and people to take it all in and become marvellous dancers and teachers and so on yourselves, and entertainers. It's just really remarkable. Yesterday was the 35th anniversary since my aunt died, so I think it's quite an amazing thing that she's well remembered. And I believe also the Wagga Stedford's on, isn't it? Which is totally appropriate, as she had a lot of input into the early days of that. She also used to, which many of you would have taken part in, mounted the most fantastic concerts. I think it was the Wonderland Theatre, was it, that some of them were, and other venues, and obviously the children love performing, and that's part of learning dance, and of course the parents were so involved, and much of the proceeds of many of those concerts were given to local charities, including, I believe, a Mayor's Fund that was running during World War II, and the Red Cross here, and other charities. Oh yes, that's right. I also remember what I think of as the kitchen cabinet, because there were often groups of parents sitting around the kitchen table, and there'd be designs that Aunt would have thought up, and swatches of fabrics and so on would be lying there, and the mothers would be all creatively inputting, and they'd come up with, you know, a final design for gorgeous troupes or duos or solos or whatever. And then these very creative, nimble-fingered mothers would make these gorgeous costumes, and their children would be dazzling in their performances. So that was all very exciting. She was also involved in the Wagga Wagga Music Society. Is that still going? Musical Society? No, I have something that marks...
Maybe school dance.
Yes, probably developed into that. Anyway, I've got something that is actually presented to her, because she must have directed, and she was also active in the performance itself. That was in 1931. Of course, the years and years of long hours in the studio, and also the lovely pianists who she employed, which gave her a chance to concentrate on teaching the techniques, and, you know, just a little adjustment of the head here, and something for graceful arms, and it was all very important to her. She was a great one for detail, and it was really something to behold. Also she loved doing the choreographies and nurturing those along and polishing them with the students. We used to love going to the Lyric Music House down on the next corner, which I think is where Bill is now. It was opposite the council chambers, and selecting music and ordering music and so on. It was really all about the dance, the music, the presentation and the nurturing of it and the students. Yes, I think I mentioned the Stedbert before. I think she was actually one of the catalysts for that, probably long before it started, I think in about 1921. There are also the wonderful annual concerts and pantomimes, the floats, the Mardi Gras floats in the street, which all were exciting, I suppose, and probably gave half the parents nervous breakdowns getting it all together. The other thing I'd like to speak about is the sound of the bagpipes in the school of them, and the Highland dancing and the kilts. And my memory of the kilts still is when people are dancing, the skirts swishing back and forth, the beautiful pleats, you know, just swishing back and forth. Wonderful. And really my aunt probably started her career with Highland in her hometown. So my family were very interested in it. I actually have a little medal of Madge's. It's the only one seems to be about. It's 1913, so I think that was about the time she started teaching, and its first prize for the Highland Fling or something. Doesn't say where it was won, but they used to go around to various places. My aunt, her sister and Madge dancing and competing. So Scottish dancing really was her original great love, and I guess you all know she was very successful in teaching you, and you were all very successful in winning and placing it a bit on the map, I guess. She, when she retired to Sydney, after she retired from teaching in Wagga, I found out the other day, from just by chance, that she was still examining and adjudicating Scottish dancing, probably until about 1970. She died in 1977. I think that's pretty amazing too. So she sort of started her life. It was a bit like the framework of her life in a way, that she began and finished with the Scottish dancing. So there are really so many aspects of her life and character and career that I really haven't time to discuss now. But she had charisma, certainly, great talent. She was much appreciated by her students, and she loved her students very much. And many of others who came into contact with her fair and careful adjudication, because I've met some of those too, who speak about how fair she was, and never putting them down in her notes. She just advised, but never make them feel that they hadn't succeeded somewhere in their performances. And all the various fields of dance that she did adjudicate and teach over all those many years. I think I'll probably over Bill's timing. As my lifelong friend, who was an ex-student, who was a student of Madge's and a local girl until she moved to Canberra, Edna Rafferty, she was at Edna Middenway, some of you may remember. We were discussing the Plaque one day, and she said, oh, you can encapsulate Madge by saying she was the true spirit of dance. and I think that's included in the plaque. And what an inspiration to us all. So I think on that note, probably, I'd like to thank you all for coming, all for having a part in Madge's life, spreading the word. She's, it's spread all around Australia, really. There's some wonderful teachers and other generations who've gone on, but where she set the seed. So I think that's something very, very special. And thank you all.
Very good. On the right spot? Over a number of recent years, we've also gone to go on presenting this to you. I don't know who's going to fight over it, but it's true. It's great. It's very good.